As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Son of a bitch. Stole my life.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Welcome back to the Shot by Shot podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Oscar, Ryan, and a guy who likes to root for teams who like to choke against my Philadelphia Eagles. We have Will in the bottom right corner.
How the 49ers lost feel, bro?
Got a better record than you. We still beat your shitty-ass team, so that's all I know. But today we're going to be talking about a movie that some people might consider as shitty as the Bills. Some people might like it a little more, and that is Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Ridley Scott is known to be, a lot of people consider him a hit-or-miss director, and Napoleon certainly has been met with divisive reactions, so we're going to break it all down, what we like, we didn't like about this film, but start us off, Oscar, what are your thoughts on Napoleon as a film, just getting right into it, and spoiler warning from here on out.
Yeah, so it's an interesting film. It was definitely kind of my most anticipated film going into kind of the second half of the year, and the kind of the point of seeing it, it was overall probably my disappointment of the year, unfortunately. There's just too much happening in kind of too short of runtime, even though it's 2.5 hours long, which is what I'd say is the main issue. There, you kind of rushing around to places back and forth, which is I think is really what hinders it the most. It's incredible to see Ridley Scott doing kind of all these battle sequences at 85, like Austerlitz. I thought was fantastic, and Waterloo as well. But yeah, it's just maybe not what he once was in kind of when he kind of started out. Obviously, I love Blade Runner and Alien. He's definitely not. I don't think he's ever going to reach those levels of highs again. But it's good to see the passion of him just pumping out projects like every year and a half or so. But yeah, solid film overall. Nothing amazing, but held back by a rushed story and a interesting script. Let's put it that way. Ryan,
What'd you give it, Oscar?
Yeah.
What'd you give it out of 5?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I gave it a 3.5. I initially gave it I initially gave it a 3.5, and then I've dropped it to a 3.
So, wait, do you have it a 3 then now?
Yeah, I have a 3 now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it as well. I think I thought it was the lowest tier, but I might be the same as Oscar now. The same as him, it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Like, Ridley Scott film is always going to be up there, but yeah, it's definitely left me pretty disappointed overall. Like, technical wise, I was pretty happy. Ridley Scott did do a good job. Many of the battle scenes, like you said, were phenomenal. We don't see that many battle sequences like on this scale often anymore, so like it's cool to see, but yeah, it was still kind of disappointing overall. I don't care about the historical accuracy parts of it because I don't really know much about Napoleon to begin with, and it's not really something I care about with historical epics. Like Amadeus is one of my favourite movies, and that's pretty much not historically accurate at all. Like, it's pretty much just fiction, and so it's not really relevant to me in this case. But yeah, it's a film that's destroyed by the edit. I think like it constantly feels like it's just jumping about randomly between scenes, and there's so much of the plot that's just rushed through. Like, the pacing is extremely fast, especially towards the start, but it never really takes any time throughout the film to slow down at any point. It's just kind of a speed run of Napoleon's life, and because of that, it's kind of hard to care about the character and what's happening most of the time, despite, like, I do think it was a good performance from Joaquin Phoenix. But yeah, overall kind of disappointing. I've got a 3 out of 5 as well. There's more good than bad, but it's still a very good film, or very well made film, because it's Ridley Scott, of course it is, but very disappointing, because I had the expectations of this being one of the best of the year in the start of 2023. But yeah, well.
Yeah, I think I'm on a little bit of the opposite spectrum of you guys. I didn't particularly love Napoleon, but I thought it was really good. I enjoyed my time with it, and I thought this was one of the best Ridley Scott movies I've seen in a little while. So it was nice to see Ridley cranking out bangers at 85 years old. But it's interesting to me to see how polarizing this film was. I've seen a lot of people kind of feel underwhelmed, or people really loving it, calling it, one of the best of his, filmography. So it's kind of weird to see how split people are on this. But I thought it was successful. Like Ryan kind of said, it is a speed run of Napoleon's life. To be fair, it is an epic. Like it goes through his entire life, and I thought the runtime was kind of short, given how fast paced the film was. Like Ryan said, we kind of bounce from place to place, but I didn't think it hindered it that much. I kind of appreciated how fast it was moving, even though maybe it kind of seemed a little bit jumpy. I'd love to see a 4 hour cut of this. I think a 4 or 5 hour Napoleon would really be a great film and really allow this movie to kind of flourish in some moments that I think are cut a little bit short. And especially in the first half goes by so fast. Like we kind of see him rise to stardom in a heartbeat, basically. So yeah, the pacing's a little wonky. It's fast and slow, then fast again. But I thought the story was intimate. It's really about the relationship between him and his wife. So it was a different approach to a tyrant that has been, everyone's done a film about Napoleon at this point, or the French Revolution. There's just so much media on it. So it was kind of a different spin on it that I appreciated. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. I thought it was pretty solid, and I definitely enjoyed it. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like everyone else, I have very mixed feelings about this film, and it was one I was very excited for at the beginning of the year, and kind of like what Will said, he rises very quickly in this film, and I think it made me realize that he's just too epic, and he's too it's just the things he's done in his life. There's just too much to cover to really fit into a feature film of any length, let alone a 2 hour and 40-minute film. I think even the 4 hour cut is like there's just so much to unpack there. Where like for example, uh we see him return to this huge applause from one of his early victories, but we don't really know we know why they're applauding, but we don't really feel the accomplishments of it, and because that nothing really feels that earned in this. And I think it has the problem of the film feels a little not directionless, but it doesn't feel like a cohesive narrative, but at the same time doesn't really feel like a slice of life film either, which kind of results in this almost Wikipedia summary approach to it, where it kind of checks the box of every major event in his life without really going too in depth with any of them, and often feeling kind of anticlimactic at the same time, with not necessarily the greatest use of setup and payoff. But I think the approach that Ridley wanted to go with it is, people have been talking about it as a love story, and it certainly is a love story. But it's, look, once again, spoiler warning, the final 3 words, they say the 3 words they show at the end of the film, which are the final 3 words Napoleon supposedly said, were France, army, and Josephine. And I think the film's commenting on these things because they're the 3 things that Napoleon supposedly loved, and at least the Napoleon character in this film loved. With, to start with France, with the very beginning of the film, we see from the very first scene with Marie Antoinette getting beheaded, and then I think Robespierre was his name, the failed suicide, and him then going to get his head chopped off. I think we see what happens to the people in power of France and where most of their story ends. And yet he's still someone who wants to rise to power, and obviously his story does not end the same way, even though it doesn't end the way that he would have liked to. But I think, there's this knowing that it's not going to end well from the very beginning. And then, like I said, there's that rushed rise, but it's really an hour into the film when he becomes the emperor, or whatever it is they call it in France. And the thing is that even though like an hour should be enough time to rise up and see his accomplishments, that really had to then share a lot of that screen time with the love story it's trying to build, which kind of makes it not build either of them too perfect. But in terms of what Ridley Scott was going for, I think Josephine is an essential part of the story, where, the very the title of the film, we see Napoleon in the very beginning, the title, it's like ascribed like letters, and we see it actually be written out like a signature on a document. And that's later going to come back, because the only time we hear that sound again and see that signature is when he signs a divorce with Josephine, which he did for France and for his love of France, which is why I think really felt it was important to tell the story of Josephine, because she's what Napoleon sacrificed for his love of France. But even though he loved both France and Josephine, there's a sense that neither of them love him quite as much. We know Josephine cheats on Napoleon, and we know that France eventually exiles Napoleon and he falls out of favor. So we have these two things that Napoleon loves, which might not necessarily share the same love with him. And at the same time, even though he loves both of them, he constantly talks about both of them with the sense of wanting to conquer and possess them, which language he uses towards both Josephine and the country of France. And then the third love is his love for the military, which I think falls the most flat by far. Where, like I said, we see him celebrated, but we don't really doesn't feel earned. And then later in the film, when he comes out of exile, and they're just so quickly turned into, oh, like, we love Napoleon, he's our emperor, and they follow him again so easily. And we can see that the troops love Napoleon, but we don't really know why. We don't see any moments of him winning the army over, or really, like, we see him charging into battle with them, but there's no moment where I felt like understand why they love him as a leader so much. I think it's just kind of assumed that just because he wins a lot of battles that they love him, but I would have liked to see some type of scene which made us feel why this army loves him and why he was such an effective leader for so long. So I do think that it's sort of overcrowded between balancing those three love stories, I guess you could say, in 2 hours and 50 minutes, which I think does fall flat, but I understand what Ridley was kind of trying to go for here, even though I don't totally agree with all of it. But Will, I'll pass it off to you. What other thoughts did you have on this film?
I think, yeah, your analysis is pretty perfect there, spot on. I think Napoleon's such a tough character to cover in media because he's so sprawling, right? Based on what perspective you take, he could be a villain, hero, a tyrant, a leader. Like, there's just so many different perspectives when you take on someone of this magnitude. And I think what made this effective for me is the fact that Ridley Scott didn't really force his own perception of Napoleon. He dumbed the character down to his three most loving things: Josephine, France, and the military. And I thought, although Alex said maybe that wasn't quite fleshed out enough for each of them, I thought it was a very simple story of these three love affairs. And we spend a lot of time with Josephine. That's evident, obviously, for his love for her. And then obviously the time we spend on the battlefield. There's a couple of really nice battles in here. His love for the military in France. So I just thought like it was a nice balance of simplicity, but also effectiveness in its storytelling. And I also want to circle back. This is totally a love story. Like this is it's a romance at the heart of this. Like we were talking about like how would you even classify this? Like what genre of film does this go into? Like period piece, war, drama, comedy. Like there are really funny moments in this. There are a lot of passionate, romantic comedy moments in this. Like it's kind of just a sprawling affair of genres, but at its heart, it's pretty simple with the three love stories, like Alex mentioned, and I think that's why it's effective for me. Like it doesn't try to do too much with the Napoleon character. Yeah, and then like obviously under the surface of this like historical epic, we've got like Napoleon, this like flawed character, and I think there's a nice balance of like building him up to be this fearless leader, like we see like taking down these massive battlefields and killing off hordes and hordes of people. But we also see him at like the lowest of lows. Like I thought a really nice touch was when every time Napoleon sets off cannons, he covers his ears. Like that is the girliest thing ever. Like how can the most fearless leader be covering his ears when the cannons are firing? We also see him kind of do the little puppy hump sex scene, like completely demean him, completely make him look like
it's hilarious.
Yeah, like such a funny moment, but it does a great job of like pulling him back to reality. Like, sure, he conquered, acres and acres of land, but he's also just this little guy who likes to hump women, just like the rest of us. So I like the simplicity of it. It was a good depiction of Napoleon as a character for me. But yeah, Ryan, did you have anything to add on there?
Yeah, just back to what Alex was saying about how from the movie just kind of did feel very bloated to me. Like he's trying to cover 30 years of history in this, what was it, 2.5 hours? Yeah, so I'm very interested to see the forever cut to see if it's better. But yeah, like you were saying, it's just he's trying to give us an insight into both. Like Napoleon is a great tactician and also that romance side of his life with Josephine. But like I think most of these ideas feel very like removed. For me, at least, I didn't really feel much emotion throughout most of the film. throughout either side of his life. For the war side, it tries to create the idea that Napoleon's like this great general that's a master of war, but we don't really see that. Like Alex was saying, like he's kind of a more of a joke character at times, like where that comedy comes in, because this film is really funny at times, and we don't often see that brilliant side of him because of that, like that comes with the reputation of Napoleon. Like I watched the 1927 Napoleon before this, and although it's a silent film, like it's kind of limited to its ability to kind of dive deep into the character. Like I think it still does a better job of like establishing him as like a great tactician, because it kind of starts from him as a young age in school, and he's like the leader of like a snowball fights and stuff. And it instantly just shows you how good he is like as a tactician in war, and then that kind of goes into him actually being in war. But you never really get anything like this in the Ridley Scott's version. He kind of just throws you into it, and you never really see the brilliance behind them. Yeah, and we're just kind of told he's a great man instead of actually being shown it. So I didn't really like that part of it. But yeah, like you were saying, like the battle scenes are still fantastic at times. Like it's definitely the best part of the film. The scale is phenomenal. The battle scenes, or that battle scene over the ice, that's definitely one of the best scenes in the film. The men falling through the ice as they were just like bombarded with the cannonballs. That was one of the moments where it was like showing like his tactician, or the tactician side of him, because he waited for them to come into the camp and then he like threw cannonballs at them. So that was a good moment. But yeah, my main complaint was just really like Alex was saying, like there wasn't really any context to the fights. Like there wasn't really any reason for you to be rooting or be like grieving or anything for the men after like it happened. That we kind of just jump away from it straight away. There was no emotional side to it, and I think that was a big problem with the editing. So I really didn't like that part of it. There was no emotional attachment to like what was actually happening. And we just didn't really get a sense of what they were fighting for, or the impact of the losses in the battle, or the wins, or anything. It was just kind of random fights. But yeah, Oscar, what did you think about the fights or the relationships in general?
Yeah, kind of similar to what you guys have been saying. I didn't really like the attempt at the balance of like war and romance. It didn't really work that well for me. I honestly wanted to see more from like their relationship side of things. 'Cause I think that would have made both characters a lot better. I never really found this Napoleon character in the Ridley's version that interesting, to be honest, because of the lack of context. And even when Josephine dies, that was really abrupt for me. There was just nothing behind that, and I didn't really feel anything. Maybe that's what happened in real life. But yeah, that just really didn't hit as hard as I think it needed to, honestly. Both performances were pretty good. Vanessa Kirby, I thought, was absolutely fantastic. The kind of the balance between the war and romance was just interesting because the script was unironically hilarious. Like some of the funniest bits of the year, the Destiny has brought me this lamb chop is so stupid, but it's so funny. And his line delivery when he's talking about Britain having boats, that clip's been going around everywhere. I think that was brilliant. But yeah, the battle scenes were incredible. But after watching War and Peace and Waterloo over this past couple weeks, kind of lessened really, just because they're kind of it's the same thing, kind of same setting really. But obviously a lot longer. It's just like seeing those are just incredible compared to this. Like these are really good, but this just, if you have an unlimited budget like those films did, you're just pouring everything into incredible battle scenes. But yeah, it was just unfortunate, I guess. 4 hour, I have very high hopes that the 4 hour cut will help it a lot. But even though like War and Peace is like a 7 hour film, you can really see the extent to which you can like take Napoleon's story, I guess, and how the War and Peace isn't even like Napoleon's not the central part. He's just kind of there because this is about War and Peace about Russia and Austria mainly, but he's kind of obviously there because Napoleon focuses on the other side of things. But yeah, this film also felt very long, considering it's nowhere near the longest film of the year. I thought Killers of the Family felt shorter than this. and so did Oppenheimer. Honestly, just the weird pacing and tonal shifts and like bits that, yeah, just I think some bits went on for a bit too long, but yeah, I like the ending. I know a lot of people didn't necessarily, but I thought the final shot was really, really good. But yeah, just a bit disappointed, really. It's a shame. It was cool to see it in IMAX though, but yeah, still.
I don't know, just based on your analysis, I think you guys like the film because like you kind of are sleeping on like Napoleon as a character, but I think there's moments where he's shown as a great tactician, like that I forget what battle it is, but the battle over the ice, like he sets up those cannons to flank
I
them.
think it is.
Yeah. Draws them in, like sets up these cannons to flank them, draws them in,
That's one
drops
scene
the
though.
cannons,
There's
they
one
start
scene.
retreating, but it's a masterful plan. Not to mention the
It
first
is,
siege
but
when he
that's
takes
one
control.
scene.
But
And there's like, I don't think there's much progression up to that moment, honestly.
you're right. Like that first hour, it is a pretty quick. Like Napoleon's
That
kind of
first hour
goaded,
is all over the place. It was
but I
so
don't know. I
good.
think they do a good enough job of like making him a tactician. But and then Oscar, you were saying like his like insecurities. I thought that was like a great part about it. Like the fact that Napoleon leads his troops and goes back home because his wife is being unfaithful is hilarious. Like he's the most insecure guy of all time, and I think like Scott went through the history and was like, yeah, this guy was extremely insecure. Like let's just play that up. And I thought that was like a really simple character trope that like played into the relationship really, really well. So I see where you guys are coming from, but I thought it did enough to achieve well on the relationship front and also pose Napoleon as a general and a tactician. But Alex, I'd like to hear what you think.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with you on the one battle. I forget what it's called again, but the one with the ice, and I think that scene is just so brilliant on so many levels, and it's a big reason why I gave the film 4 stars on first watch. On a rewatch, I did bring it down to 3.5, but everything about the battle scenes as a whole, I think, is just brilliant. It's masterfully crafted. It's some of the most epic scale filmmaking we've seen in recent years, and is an accomplishment, even if, some of us come out of the film not loving it. Like this film does deserve a level of respect for what it pulled off because it's so difficult to pull off something on that scale. And what Ridley did is an incredible accomplishment. And yeah, I think that sequence, we really do see what a master strategist he was in terms of war. I wish we could have seen something like that a little earlier to see when he's kind of still earning those kind of and though he becomes like the emperor and the general and all that as he's moving up. I wish that those would feel more earned if we saw something like this a little earlier. But it certainly is a great scene when we do see it, with kind of the strategy and just placement of war, almost like that game Risk that we used to play. Some people play as a kid. Like it's just or like some like just the strategies of where people are placed, even like to a degree like sports like football or ice hockey, like where you place your people and the strategy of that. And from the very beginning, like the scene starts in that camp setup, and we're locked into the camp, which we later find out is a misdirection. But as the audience, he misdirects us into thinking that they're just setting up here, and that this is like this center of where the whole army is set up. So in the beginning, he locks us in on the misdirection and does a great job by showing the little elements of war, like the signals sending word that they're coming, and how that can be triggered just by like the one guy sparking a cigarette, which catches one of the watchers' eyes, the signals all the way back. And then after that, we see this army approaching, and Napoleon's calm, which some of us are thinking they're in trouble, and he uses the sound design to have this real loud sound to the army to make them feel very intimidating, to think like, oh, like Napoleon's in trouble, like maybe this isn't going to go so well. And then just they make Napoleon seem smarter by how everyone's telling him to charge, and he says, wait, let him take the high ground. Just that little moment makes us think he's even smarter because he clearly knows more than the people around him. And then sends them all in, and then instantly we just see the retreat. And on a rewatch, you'll notice where when all the other troops are running across, there's like this emphasis, like the landscape in the snow, you can't really tell, but there's like a slight change where like the rocks stop. And like it kind of calls your attention to it, but doesn't at the same time. It like feels different, even though on a first watch it won't jump out to you. And then all of the French troops stop there, and once again, we don't really think anything of it, but then all of a sudden the guy falls and we see the ice and he just starts shooting the cannons, not to hit the people and kill them, but to break the ice and sink them that way. Just such a smart, so tactically brilliant on so many levels, which I think that scene is just perfectly executed on every level. I really have no criticisms about it. And yeah, I think that scenes like that are why I gave this film a 4-star on a first watch, and a big part of why I think it's a film that's worth checking out, even if it's not necessarily a perfect film, because it's not just spectacle; it's also tactical, and there's a lot more. It's a lot more about the mind behind war rather than just showing epic battles of slaughtering each other. It's very planned out and very important details. But yeah, I'll pass it off to Ryan.
Yeah, like I was saying, I do think that one war scene is great, but then it doesn't really happen again. Like they're quite short in general throughout the film. There's the one against the British, and he's just kind of sleeping, around the front, like in his camp. So he's not really like. There's not another moment where he's like a great tactician again. I think he's kind of played for jokes, like especially in that like battle. But yeah, there's not that many of them, and they're not particularly long. So there's more focus on Josephine, like we were saying, like, but I don't think that's a particularly strong point of the film. Like their relationship's very rushed at the start. Like Will was saying, I think there's probably like 5-10 minutes between from them meeting and like getting married. Like I was so surprised like how quick that is. But yeah, like I was saying, there was just so many moments where he just skips ahead and completely forgets subplots. Like there was that one where him and Josephine are struggling to conceive a child, so he has to sleep with a girl to check if he's fertile, and she ends up pregnant, and then the movie just completely forgets that ever happened and that she was gonna have a baby. Like she's never brought up again. And then when he meets Josephine for the first or one of the first times, and he retrieves her son's dead father's sword, we kind of see her that she has 2 or 3 children. I can't remember. But then when they get married, the children just seem to disappear completely. They're never seen again. So there's just all these like moments or like subplots in the movies that are just completely forgotten about through the editing. And I thought that was a big part of the film that I didn't like. But yeah, did any of you notice like all that stuff?
No, not until you mention it, but I feel like since the film jumps around like a ton, it's kind of hard to keep track of all that stuff. Like I've only seen it one time actually. I saw it in theaters a few
Yeah,
days
same.
ago, so it's still pretty fresh in my head. But there are like you mentioned that now, but yeah, like I didn't notice that in the when I was watching the film. But yeah, it makes sense. They kind of leave some loose ends. But I feel like such is life, there are loose ends in life, and as the Napoleon character, like you're centering on the relationship between Josephine and Napoleon, it's like you're gonna forget about the other shit because
Just forget
it's
about the
about
children.
Napoleon. Yeah, exactly. No, but I don't know. I think the battles were done really well, like you highlighted and said. And a lot of people are complaining about the color grade and how this film looked. They said it was too desaturated. I loved it. Like I was so in tune with like the icy blue, like kind of desaturated grays. Like I thought it was menacing. It did a really good job of like painting that part of the world as like kind of like this desolate ice wasteland. Like especially when they go into Moscow, I thought that was a really really important scene as well. Like circling back to the tactician of war, like Napoleon was almost like caught off guard. Like he was totally caught off guard. He was too egotistical. He thought he was gonna roll into Moscow and take it like the king he is, but he got outsmarted. And that just like goes to show you like the tactics behind war, which I thought was cool, like just playing up the cat and mouse game, which it always in the end. So I did like that. And there's some really beautiful moments, especially in Moscow and those battles. And yeah, like I said, the color grade I thought was beautiful. The set design, costumes, everything. It's a really beautiful film to look at, from start to finish. There's not a lot of scenes where you're disinterested in what's going on in the frame. But Oscar, yeah, did you have anything to comment on that?
Yeah, I think like going back to the battles, like I think the best shot of the film for me is that Austrian flag bearer on the horse escaping on the ice. That was so cool with all the cannon fire. That was so cool to see. I actually really enjoyed the opening battle as well on that kind of fort port harbor thing in there where the horse just takes a massive
Oh yeah, that was brutal.
cannon. That was poor horse, man. I actually really like that kind of as an opening, but I feel like they could have used it more to show more of his character, I guess. But yeah, then we're kind of wrapping into Waterloo at the end, which kind of like abrupt at the end, kind of. I don't know. He just kind of leaves, doesn't he? Unless I'm thinking of it wrong.
Like when he's banished on the boat.
But anyway, yeah. Yeah, Waterloo was really, really cool. Just yeah, I just think too many battles are glossed over as well. You kind of got the ones in Egypt. There is another one that I cannot remember the name of. I think it's when they're in Russia on the way back as well. That's kind of, you see them like charging into battle, and that's about it. But then you're going to get that one really good shot of Napoleon charging into battle on his horse. I really like that as well. But yeah, just not enough of him as a general and tactician, like you guys have been saying, to have any impact, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that Egypt part, honestly. Like, I'm no Napoleon historian, so I was kind of learning as I was watching as well. But that scene kind of seems thrown in there. Like him shooting at the pyramids kind of seems a little ridiculous. But I don't know. I thought like you kind of said rushed or abrupt, and I think those are really kind of two words that fit this film. Abrupt. It seems like everything is just happening all at once. But I don't think it kind of is it's to its demise. Like it works in a sense for me because of how fast paced it is. But yeah, like going back to, I'd love to see a longer cut. I feel like a better edit and a longer cut could have made this film a whole lot better. But yeah, Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, like that Egypt scene, like you said, like he just said he'd done that because he just thought it was cool, and I think it would have been better if we
Yeah,
could
he
have
did.
seen that throughout the rest of the film, because I don't know, I feel like there was probably, from what I've heard, there's a lot of stuff that he like just didn't even look at that like would have been really cool. Even though I don't really care about being historically accurate, but if there was cooler scenes that he could have been showing, that probably would have been better. Especially some more battle scenes, but yeah, I don't really know what he cut out, so.
Alex, what do you think about the runtime and the edit, the cut? How did you feel about it?
I think, yeah, honestly, to be honest, I'm worried. I do want to see a 4-hour cut, but I'm kind of worried that it's just going to be more of the love story. And I feel like the studio probably kept in all of the battle stuff, which is what everyone's praising. And I do worry. I mean, maybe we'll be more invested in that love story now that, it'll be more fleshed out. And I think it'll be a lot of scenes that we do see being longer, not trimmed up as much. So maybe they'll play out better. I really don't know. But yeah, I mean, I really don't like to criticize films. I like to more touch on the things that I do like about them. But I got to be fair when talking about this, so I'll just get my criticisms out of the way now, since there are things I don't love about this film. And the rushed element of it is certainly one of them. No, I think we talked about how he kind of rises quickly without always seeing those accomplishments, and really all we see is him deserting them instead of anything that really should win the troop support. So right before he becomes the emperor. So I think maybe that's an intentional commentary by Ridley Scott by showing that they loved him even though he was deserting them. Maybe it's just I don't know, flaw in the script. I really don't know. And yeah, I agree that there are kind of loose ends that go nowhere with, and I'm not opposed to that, but I think, it's not like the film really took a slice of life approach. So it feels like the type of film where there's a lot of setup and payoffs, and a lot of the setup does lead to no payoffs, like Ryan talked about. And I will say there's a lot of like massive time jumps that feel a little unsettling, but one of them that I really did like was when he becomes the king, we see this guy sketch of the crowning ceremony. And it really has nothing to do with anything other than just showing us atmosphere of the time. But then the next scene, we're in a meeting where they're talking about how his wife can't produce an heir. And there we see that same sketch, like now blown up very big and being like painted. So obviously we know that some time has passed, which is pretty subtle, but I thought was like a subtle, brilliant time jump that I like. not issues with how they portrayed the characters. I wasn't a fan of interpretation, and I love Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. He's easily one of the best actors working today, and I'm sure his approach to the character was very intentional, and he has his reasons for it. But it wasn't, just believing that this is one of the biggest warmongers in the history of the world, a general who was like one of the emperors ever. And he just kind of felt like a whiny kid at times. Like he never really felt authoritative. He didn't really feel all that smart. He didn't feel like very confident. And it's things like he's talking to his wife about, like, did she ever consider his feelings? Like, I don't know. I think like the idea of a war general on this level saying you hurt my feelings feels a little unrealistic to me, especially someone who was like such a war monger on this level.
Well,
It's just, I don't know,
Napoleon rose at like the age of 22 or something, man. So he was a kid. Like he definitely was.
Yeah,
So
but he's
Joaquin
meant to be
Phoenix looks
23
like
in the film.
Yeah, 23 he's supposed to be. So yeah, but I totally get what you're saying with that. Like he is a whiny kid at the end of the day.
Yeah, you have a point. I actually didn't realize he was supposed to. I'm like no expert on Napoleon and the history of him, so I actually didn't even realize how young he's supposed to be. So that does actually add some context to it.
I think that's
but
one of the things people were annoyed
I don't
about.
know, like,
'Cause
there's, like, this,
Josephine's
like,
meant to be like 40.
Damn.
Josephine's meant to be like
Oh,
40,
really?
so that's why I think that's why she couldn't like conceive in real life. It was nothing to do with like Napoleon. I think that's one of the things people were annoyed about.
I didn't know that at all. Yeah, I do think Vanessa Kirby does a good job of, like, even though I have criticisms about the approach to the love story versus his war accomplishments, I think that her performance is so good that at least on a first watch, I wasn't as like bored with the love themes, because I think that she really does that she can with that character. I just don't think it's necessarily the best writing decision that they took, but she certainly, I think, does a very good job with what she's given. And last, I got to talk about, Will touched on it. I know, Will, you said you like the color grade. I fucking hate the color grade. Like, can't stand it. I hate desaturated color, and it's one thing when they're going for like a realism approach. This isn't even realistic desaturated color. This is unrealistically desaturated, which I hate even more, because I have a strong hatred of desaturated color. I just think it's ugly to look at, and it's really got to be a dreary film for me to feel like it's justified, and this was nowhere near dreary enough where I felt like it justified that, making it just look at ugly images, especially because the composition's nice, and they do a good job of like limiting the sunlight, almost like a Barry Lyndon, to kind of create certain nice light streams and things like that. And like they're nicely composed images with just the ugliest color grade ever. So I would never want to like these images just for the sake of looking at them like a painting. And I don't think it's necessarily a story told through images. There's some nicely composed images, but I don't think he really is using the images to tell the story in a visual way. And I don't think there's really a lot of stylistic evolution in this film. I don't think any of the style of the film really evolves. It's very consistent from start to finish, which is fine. That's like a creative choice. He decided to make a lot of films do it, but I just personally always kind of prefer films that have an evolution of the style. And I don't really love the way, in terms of loose ends, actually, like the beginning, you think you're in for like a very gory film with the head being chopped off and the suicide attempt and the horse getting hit by the cannon, and like the gore really goes away in the second half. Like, and I'm not that I really care. I just think that adds to like the kind of inconsistency of some like loose ends almost, and uncalculated. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I rewatch it, I'd notice that there's some type of connection, but I don't know. The slow motion to me felt just kind of the random areas that looked cool to use it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just I'm not. Maybe there's things I'd pick up on a rewatch, but those are pretty much my criticisms of the film. I'll pass it off to Will.
Yeah, I think you kind of covered most people's criticisms, except for the color grade. That's crazy. Well, you guys are gonna have to let us know in the comments. Did you like the color grade? Maybe we'll run a poll on Twitter or something. Because I thought it looked good. I thought you kind of mentioned Barry Lyndon, and honestly, I thought it looked very similar to Barry Lyndon. Like there were a lot of moments where it's like candlelight, soft light, two entities just kind of sprawled on a sofa or a chair. So in that sense, like I thought it was very
not ugly as shit.
Oh my! I would beg to differ. But
Barry
I'm
Lyndon
just
looks
kidding.
like every frame is a painting in Barry Lyndon. It doesn't look like that in this.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
And Barry
your
Lyndon's like 10 times better than this film.
I mean, depending on what your definition of every frame is a painting, like I think some of the composition and framing in Napoleon is far and away more interesting and better than Barry Lyndon. But we already know that I'm not a big Barry Lyndon guy. Um, and it just is like there's some like sweeping crane shots in here that just I've never seen like ever in any type of filmmaking, any type of war cinema, like anything. So like Barry Lyndon is a much more intimate type of filmmaking, whereas Ridley Scott has like a grandiose approach that I think is like pretty unmatched, and it works so well with the story. So yeah, I don't know. Like comparing this to Barry Lyndon seems a little bit crazy, but at the same time, like I'm taking this over Barry Lyndon.
What?
Dude, Barry Lyndon.
That's crazy.
Barry. Let me say that again.
Crazy.
This film does not hold Barry Lyndon's jockstrap. That is a crazy comparison.
That is nuts. This Barry Lyndon is like in every aspect better than this film. That is crazy.
That is
Hey, someone had to have a hot take of the episode, so might as well step up. But yeah,
That
I'm
is
curious.
crazy.
I want to hear what you guys think. Am I insane for thinking that this is on the scale of some of the other period pieces like Barry Lyndon and so on and so forth? But
Yes.
we'll touch on those a bit later. But do we have any final thoughts on Napoleon or anything you want to get off your chest?
One more thing I'd like to talk about, and that is that I think, I'm like I said, I'm no expert on Napoleon historically, but the historical accuracy is something that is at least worth discussion when talking about a piece like this. And I think Ridley makes it very clear and wants us to question the accuracy of it. I think a lot of people are criticizing the film, but think about what the last spoken dialogue is. I know there's a little bit of voiceover after, but the last spoken dialogue is him asking the kids who burnt Moscow, and he says that it was him who did it. When we've seen it, obviously it was not him. And from the very beginning, a lot of the story is told through the voiceover, which is the letters. And then when Josephine dies, that we find out that the letters were sold to who knows who. And now, we really need to question the accuracy of the letters, which are supposedly the factual legal documents. And, obviously, like this is a film where Napoleon has an American accent, speaks English. Like from the very start, I think we kind of need to know that this is not a super accurate depiction of Napoleon, and it's definitely Ridley Scott's own interpretation of the story, which is also why I don't love the more summary Wikipedia approach, because if you're going to do your own thing in terms of veering from historical accuracy, I think you should really lean more into that rather than making sure all the facts are there. But yeah, I think that, it did make me want to learn more about Napoleon, but it also is a film that definitely we should be questioning the accuracy of it as we're watching it. And I think Ridley Scott certainly wants us to question the accuracy of the film and makes it clear that he knows there's no real getting to the truth in the film. And, he knows that based on a true story never actually means a true story. But that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Napoleon. Definitely worth a watch. An incredible IMAX experience, incredible battle sequences, which are on the level of all those great period pieces, like Will says. The battle sequences certainly are the part of this film that I think deserves that praise. And not my favorite film of the year, but certainly one that's worth a watch, and I did enjoy it.
Also, we have to mention, why do the Russian troops have a Russian accent, but the British and French troops don't have French accents and English accents? Well, it's only the Russians that have accents. So
British? Do the British know? I thought the British did.
do
Might
the
be
British-
I don't remember.
It's inconsistent, I think.
yeah, it was super inconsistent.
I
I remember,
mentioned
like,
the.
when the Russian guy, when Alexander Starr started talking, I was like, what the heck? Like, I thought we were going no accents. Yeah, it just goes back to the loose ends thing. But maybe my rating will drop on a rewatch. Maybe there are more loose ends than I remember. But like Alex said, Napoleon's kind of a good watch, kind of a dad movie. Go in the movie theater, enjoy it, enjoy those battles on the big screen. But yeah, that's our Napoleon review. But I think we're going to go swiftly into, speaking of period pieces, we're going to do a draft of period pieces set between 18 and 1900. So before World War One and World War II.
What? Just
I
anything
thought it was just
pre-1900.
pre-1900.
Okay, we're going to do pre 1900. Excuse me. We're going to do pre-1900, so we escape World War I and World War II. But we're gonna go yes to samurai films, but no to Western films, considering Western is a pretty big genre. But samurai doesn't get enough love, so samurai films will count in this. But yeah, any period piece prior to 1900. I believe Oscar rolled a little spinner to see who goes first, and who went first? Sorry, I'm forgetting now.
Me.
It's Oscar, yeah. Oscar, and then Alex.
Then
me, and
Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go in order, and we're gonna draft 5 period pieces of sorts, and then you guys can vote on Twitter in the comments who has the best lineup of movies. Without further ado, I think Oscar, you can kick us off, right?
Yeah. This is a bit of a tough first pick. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna start off with Harakiri, probably my favorite.
That was a cop-out pick.
Uh,
Fair enough.
It's a very
That's
valid
different.
pick.
Other ones.
Take the number 1 on Letterboxd. That's cool.
Yep. Deservedly so.
Deservedly.
So. Alex, where are you?
I didn't think you were going there, so I'm going to take the one that I thought you were going with, which is Barry Lyndon.
Fair enough.
So I'm gonna play a little bit of spoiler to Ryan here because I know what film he wants. I want it more.
Yeah.
I'm going
What film you want?
It's just the best period piece ever made. I'm sorry, it just is.
It is.
I respect.
That's respectable.
Wait, I'm gonna have to copy Oscar and go with the samurai route. And I'm gonna go with one of Akira Kurosawa's best films. I'm gonna go with the masterpiece Ran.
Ooh,
damn it!
You were thinking.
Yeah, Akira Kurosawa and Masterpiece. You could pick just about any one of his.
Yeah, his whole filmography.
True.
He's got many that fit this description. Like my big word for this draft is like all half Akira Kurosawa.
All right, Ryan, you got the back-to-backs.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Was he double up on?
Double up on Akira Kurosawa.
I will double up. I will take Seven Samurai as well.
Damn it!
Actually, five.
That was a safe pick. I was going to take it if you weren't, but I feel like this is a steal because this should have been a first-round pick. But I'm taking Portrait of the Lady on Fire.
Oh no! How have I forgotten about that?
That was on my list.
I didn't think you're going.
No! How have I forgotten about that?
Deal.
Damn it!
That's a first-round pick.
It was my.
That's not even on my list. I completely forgot about that.
Electric start from
Damn it! That is such a good pick.
I was
Alright,
sitting here
Alex.
chill, and I knew I was getting 7 cents.
Alex, where you go?
Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
How have I
gotta
forgotten
do
about
some
that?
meditation. What do I want? Hold on, let me look up if this one is a.
To be fair, there
Take my next.
are a
It is
few
Lawrence
movies
of
I had to
Arabia
fact
set.
check.
Don't you dare take my next pick.
Oh, you guys not hear me? I said, does Lawrence of Arabia, is that set in? When's that set?
That's before, surely.
I'm gonna look it up.
Actually, I'll have a look.
I think it's
1916.
No, 1916.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
It went. Gotta look up one more.
There's still a few big ones that I
was gonna take Fanny and Alexander. That's 1907.
damn.
So, all right, give me.
Surely there's another Bergman though. Maybe? No?
Yeah, there is. There's a good Bergman. I'm gonna save it, but I'll take. I don't know value pick wise what I want here. All right, I'm gonna take Scorsese's Gangs of New York.
There's a better
That was one of my
Scorsese
sleeper
film than
picks.
that you could have taken.
I figured that was going to get drafted, but not this high.
Okay, back to back picks.
Me. I know what the fuck me.
I feel like this one. I don't know if this one might have gone on the radar for some people, but I'm gonna take The Elephant Man.
Yeah, that was on my list.
That was
That
on
was.
mine.
I knew that was coming.
I think early 19 or no, you're good. You're good.
No, I checked. It definitely was.
I checked it as well. Then next, ooh, this is tough.
Yeah.
I've got some like really ones that are high up on my list, but I kind of want to make get a bit of votes. But I mean, there's one that's glaring at me that's going to get me so many votes. But I don't know if I want to take it. So I'm gonna take Silence instead.
Oh, I didn't actually think about that one. It's a great pick.
That was the other Scorsese I was thinking of, but that means there's another Scorsese that I'm not thinking of. Interesting.
Is that?
Maybe not.
Well, yeah, there
Probably
is another
is.
one, but it's not like top tier Scorsese.
Oh yeah, there is another one. Yeah, I know which one it is.
All right, I am going to take. Unlike Oscar, I don't talk about what gets me votes because my team doesn't fucking pander, ever. We're gonna take Yorgos Lanthimos as the favorite.
Oh,
I wanted that so bad.
How am I forgetting about all
yeah.
these? Wait.
Oh.
How am I forgetting about all of these, man?
I was between two, and I was between obviously.
How did I forget about
Please
that?
don't do this.
And I'm gonna take it because she deserves to be on this list.
No.
And I'm taking Little Woman, Greta Gerwig.
No. Oh my god, that was my next.
How did I
two
not think of
picks.
that either?
Let's go, dude. My team is shaping up. You know,
Oh my god.
I'm chuffed with my 3 picks.
I wanted Little Woman next so badly. Such a good one.
There is
And that's gonna get me votes.
still on the board.
I love Little Woman, and it's a good Panther pick, so it's the best of both worlds for me.
What did you say, Alex?
I said there's a great pander.
There is such a great panda pick. It's
Full on the board.
ridiculous.
I'm not
I don't know how
taking it.
people haven't
Really?
taken it
Is
yet.
it?
There's such a
Is
great
it?
panda
Panda
pick.
pick.
Oh, geez.
Really, I don't think mine. I wasn't pandering much to mine, to be fair, but there is such a great panda pick.
Okay. I have a double pick though now.
Yeah, you got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking this might be the panda pick, but since we're talking about a Ridley Scott film today, I'm gonna go Gladiator.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what
it?
I was thinking of. Yeah, that was the panda.
You got one
And
more.
then- Okay, I've got some. Wait, is this my 4th pick? Yeah.
Yeah, it's your 4th.
Yes.
I'm gonna save my sleepers for the final round. I think it'd be wrong if I didn't take this one. I'm gonna take Braveheart.
Whoa, that wasn't even on my list.
Never seen it, to be fair. There's quite a few Mel Gibsons you could take, probably. He's got.
Back to me, huh? I think I'm between 2 here. 2 newer movies. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I think this is
Yeah.
kind of a pander pick.
I've got a really
gonna
new
go-
movie that I-
No, I guess it's not that new. I'm gonna go The Lighthouse, Robert Eggers.
Oh, I
Oh,
did not think about that one.
you just put a film straight into my head. Thank you very much, William.
A mid film.
I was
I put a number of films
Not
straight
taking
into
it
my
earlier.
head.
yeah.
How have I forgotten about Robert Eggers? Wow. I just kind of just look at all old films and didn't really think about new. Alex,
Alex, you frozen?
he's frozen again.
Yeah, that I'm thinking about taking that Eggers film. That Eggers film
that Eggers film would get me more votes, but I'm gonna go with Kurosawa's Yojimbo. So Oscar, you can have it.
Yojimbo. Yeah, okay, I got two
And
minus
wait,
two
what-
picks. I'm definitely taking The Witch. That is not a panda pick. I would definitely be picking that. One
What'd
of
you
the
say, Alex?
best period piece films ever.
Sorry, Alex. What did you say?
Yojimbo.
I think my audio's like delayed.
Oh, last pick. I'm going to go for War and Peace. Seen it recently, one of the best period pieces ever. Without a doubt. So, yeah.
That's definitely not a panda pick.
Yeah,
Definitely not a
I've
panda
seen it.
pick. It's got like, how many logs on Letterboxd has it got? Yeah, no, none of you have seen it. It's got 13k logs on Letterboxd.
Wow. All right, Alex. What's rounding out your team?
Nothing, apparently. What was your final pick?
This is my last pick. So there's a great pander no one's taken. I'm not taking it. Do I go with the better,
I think
or do I? All right.
I think I know what your pander pick is. I think I know what it is.
So honestly, there's two great pander picks, like incredible pander picks. But
Ooh.
honestly, a part of me wants to take the greatest performance ever in Bergman's Cries and Whispers, but I'm gonna pass on that. Give me Luchino Visconti's The Leopard, which I guarantee no one listening has even heard of. But that is a masterpiece of period piece, and I'm taking it because we don't fucking pander over here.
You can have that. You
I
can
have no
have
idea
that.
what
on
that
your-
is. So.
No, I've
I
never
know-
even heard of that.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna round out my team with what I thought you were referring to as a pander pick, and I had to do a Google search for this one, so don't come at me. But I'm going Christopher Nolan's The Prestige.
oh, that wasn't it. I thought,
Interesting.
I forgot that was that counted. I thought that was like early.
It's set in the 1890s. I had to
Wow.
Google
I
it.
think I've just thought of one
I
that
didn't
I'm
think that-
gonna kick myself over.
But yeah, that's
Is
my
There
last
Will Be
movie.
Blood
My last movie.
set before? Is
No,
There Will
it's
Be
not.
Blood?
I checked that. It's 1900s,
Thank
I think.
God.
1910 or something.
Ryan, what's your last one?
Okay.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got one. I was going to go Napoleon, the 1927 one, so obviously that as an honourable mention, but I'm going to take a huge sleeper hit that nobody have thought of. I'm going to go a Francis Ford Coppola film. One of his best, Dracula.
Oh. I didn't even clock Dracula.
How have I forgotten?
We're around.
No. It crossed my mind, but for some reason I just didn't think before 1900.
Like all Dracula. You could have done any Dracula movie basically.
I
Or
don't
any
know,
like
I would have picked that as well. That's such a good
or you could
film.
do like Nosferatu. Okay, let's line up
Yeah.
some honorable mentions here. I had oh, what did I have?
The best Predator film, Prey.
Why don't we go in order, Ryan? Why don't you give full mentions? Bring back that way.
All right, sure.
Yeah, I've got the Napoleon, the original one. That was a great one I've mentioned. Last Joe from Ridley Scott. I think that's one of his best films as well. Just the Kurosawas, Rashomon, just Four of Blood. I also had that on my list. 12 Years a Slave. It's probably one people didn't think of.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
I think that's all I've got.
I was thinking of Marie Antoinette, The Green Knight, Waterloo.
The Green Knight.
Pride
Yeah,
and
Waterloo
Prejudice Pride and Prejudice was a pander pick I was thinking of, but nobody took it. Yeah, that's about it.
I can't believe no one took these two panders were golden if you wanted to pander. That's Pirates of the Caribbean and Titanic.
Titanic was not before.
I had
Titanic
that
was
on my list.
1910.
Yeah, it's
Wait,
1912.
what year's Titanic? No,
Titanic was not
Titanic-
before 1900.
It's 1912 it was.
yeah.
Also, you know, we
Pirates
had
of the Caribbean. That's so good.
Pirates of
Old
the Caribbean.
Tom, Ten Commandments and Ben Hur, Best Bride. What other honorable mentions do we have? Some good
Oh,
samurai.
Alice in Wonderland. I had Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, that's one. Samurai.
Les Miserables.
Les
Les Miserables.
But no,
Passion of Joan of Arc. Andrei Rublev, Apocalypto, Terrence Malick's The New World, Sanjuro,
Prey,
Just about, any Kurosawa.
that.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was our period piece draft. Let us know which team won. We'll be posting a link to the Twitter. Go vote for my team, obviously. But yeah, let us know what you thought about Napoleon. I want to hear the feedback because it's a pretty wide spectrum of reactions. So always, all our links for Twitter, Letterboxd in the description. Go talk to us. Comment what you think. But thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you later.